Hey, Data Fam, I can't tell you how much we appreciate everyone who participates in the Maven challenges and that we understand that each entry requires a tremendous amount of time and effort. So thank you to everyone who joined us for the restaurant challenge. After spending a good deal of time deliberating who moves on to be finalists, we're gathered here, and as is customary, we're bringing you into the action. We'll be reviewing 10 finalist entries and crowning one analyst a winner. And we'll begin now with Cornelius. So at first glance, this is a lot to take in, and it does feel very busy, but once you dig in, you begin to appreciate the linear data-driven storytelling by Cornelius here. He didn't take surface level stats either and run with them to deliver his recommendations. So for example, in the first segment, consumer budget versus restaurant prices, he wasn't just looking at what consumer category is the largest and then running with it. He made a judgment about the quality of the categories and then made a recommendation from there. So that theme of using multiple variables before arriving at a recommendation was well done and can be found throughout the whole entry.
Yeah, one thing I love about this is that every section ends in a takeaway, right? And it's like, no matter what you're looking at, he did a really good job of making sure that there was, so this means here's the takeaway for this piece. And then it's the sum of all those pieces that kind of bring meaning to the dashboard. So again, someone who's consuming a lot of dashboards, this was a really well done execution of something that tells me what everything means and what I should be taking away from it.
Okay, excellent feedback, team. Moving on to Federico Pastor. So I love that Federico made it in. He's a Maven Hall of Famer, and he's clearly dedicated to his craft, always sharing some of the work he's published and putting it out in the community, answering questions. So again, I love that he's here. And it's interesting to see the like artistic or stylish elements like this, because this isn't something he typically do in the past. So at least to me, it feels like it's something different for Federico. From a stats dashboard perspective, it's succinct and dials in on what are probably some of the most important descriptive stats. But there were no recommendations or insights, which I think, if provided, would have propelled this entry into the stratosphere.
Again, Federico, I think he definitely knows what he's doing. I don't think he made many mistakes here. I think like the charts are correct. I like that he kind of calls out the main element in each one of the charts. Like in the donuts, he uses a center to like call out the biggest slice, which is where to focus on. And he does the same thing for the bar charts. You can see that he's got single, married, other, and then he calls out the single number again. And he does that throughout, which I think is a really kind of focused way. It helps you really read the dashboard and see what he wants you to see. But I do agree with Frank that the only element missing for me is kind of a vinyl recommendation as someone looking to invest, which was kind of the prompt for the challenge. Whereas this is more of like a kind of like an exploratory dashboard to get an idea of the landscape. And then I guess maybe make your own decision based on this. But I kind of wish it was a little bit more guided in that sense.
Awesome. Thanks, Enrique. So I'll just add on here on kind of the visual presentation. I think you hear a lot, people at Maven will talk about kind of focusing on the content and not putting in too much stuff to get distracted here. I think the way Federico's done this, he's kind of brought in a little bit of kind of creative, nice imagery that fits and helps make it pretty without distracting too much. So I think this is a good example where, like, you hear us say, don't do this stuff, but if you are kind of, just a dash of it, kind of the way Federico did here, no pun intended. But good stuff, Federico.
All right, excellent feedback again. And moving on to our next contestant. For me, this is such a fun and light entry from like a style perspective, which is kind of misleading because this entry is really all business. The bullet chart here was an innovative way to show where a gap exists between supply and demand. But if the user of the dash had a preference for a cuisine not listed as a top 3, we're then provided a dynamic way to get insight into our customer demographics by choice of cuisine in the middle portion there of the dash. And then at the bottom, we're also getting some competitive intelligence. So it's like, what's not to like here from an investment angle. I think the author nailed a fantastic mix of user interaction, investment related metrics, and a fun casual style.
Yeah, this one was really unique. It caught my eye right away. Just the design is really clean. When you actually look at it, there's only 2 real charts or visuals included, but even with just a select small number of visuals, it still tells the story in a really clear way. A lot of people honed in on this supply demand comparison, which I think was really, really smart. But I think this entry does it better than any others that I saw. Using that kind of overlaid column chart like we see here, using color to indicate where demand exceeds supply and vice versa, and specifically calling out, hey, these are the investment opportunities, front and center, top of the dashboard. I think that was great. Definitely a little bit of a unique approach where it's more of a user-facing tool for the actual user to explore and arrive at their own insights and investment decisions. Generally, I thought this was a really good combination of strong design and strong analysis backing it as well.
All right, great comments so far. Moving on to our next contestant, Ryan. So this one was great, right? Like in its simplicity. Like I had no trouble understanding anything in this entry, and took away tons of information within a short time span. I enjoyed, like I said, how light and clean it is. I felt like the entry gave me a good deal of insight without demanding much bandwidth. Another great example of where less is more.
I mean, for me, I think this was a really good entry that with a few minor kind of thoughtful tweaks could have turned into a really fantastic entry. The first time you read it, it's kind of like a disjointed set of charts. I mean, the layout is really great, but you're not really taking away much until you arrive at that final recommendation kind of square that he has in the bottom right. And then you start to realize that all of these kind of questions are being answered, not just with the text there, but with the supporting charts that you saw previously. The problem is you don't really realize that until you get to the end, right? So that kind of makes you want then go back after reading that and kind of tie all the insights into the charts, and it really pays off. But if he had chosen to either add those kind of questions and answers with the respective charts or just at the beginning, I think it would have been a much more effective dashboard. But really great job overall.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, Enrique. And we'll be moving on to our next entrant, Kate, who has been with us before as a finalist. And this is a lot to take in, right? And so to start, this snippet or JPEG image that we're looking at here of the entry, I don't think does it justice. Like for anyone who's watching this video, I'd highly suggest going to Kate's profile, checking out her post history to find it and get a good view of it, because it really is worth it. In some of the text of this entry, she includes industry specific information, which I thought was really cool, right? If I'm an investor and I'm coming to you, the analyst, for guidance, the fact that she included relevant information to the industry with citations is something I'd very much appreciate. And then the challenge was something that was unique to this particular entry. I can't fail to mention how creative the author here is as well. Like in the bottom, the stylized charts, they don't feel particularly clunky or like it takes a lot of bandwidth to understand, which is something that's hard to pull off with innovative charts. They're different and fun, but remain professional and interesting in this entry.
And this one caught my eye right off the bat. Just really strong design, good use of color, great use of layout. There is a lot of depth here, which can feel a little intimidating at first, but this is one of the examples where as I started to read through, I actually got more and more engaged with it. I love the kind of 10,000 foot view summary at the top, just showing, we've got 130 restaurants. They're split across these 3 states and 4 cities. We've got kind of a general breakdown along the left side. I think what Kate does better than anyone else we saw in this challenge is justify why an investment decision should be made. And while there's no kind of right or wrong there, I think she went deeper than most people did and really talked about how a choice for investment would be a restaurant that has high visitors, high food ratings, but maybe lower service ratings, because that could present an opportunity for an investor to come in and improve those ratings and drive new growth. And I like that she used some novel charts that weren't so over the top crazy that they were very tough to read. But one thing that does help, which we see some entrants do occasionally, is add little keys for how to interpret the charts, especially for ones that are a little bit more non-traditional, like the scatter plots here and that custom chart at the bottom. So overall, I think there's a lot here, but there's some really high quality analysis behind it, all packaged up into a really nice, clean design.
Okay, moving on to our next entrant, Kin. So I'll leave specific comments regarding the entry to the rest of the Maven team, because I'd like to point out that some time ago, Albert Bellamy of the How to Get an Analytics Job podcast had mentioned that there's a sincere need for you as someone seeking a job, obviously, or career pivot, for you to put your work out there. And I think this entry is a shining example of why that is such good advice. So this author used the restaurant challenge as a capstone project. And then she shared it with everyone, and she got like a whopping 200 plus reacts and then a good number of comments. So again, for any student or anyone who's looking to pivot into the data space, like take what she did as a playbook, because this is an awesome way to get noticed. Entering challenges, completing data related coursework, and then sharing it. Next is Victor. So I think now that we've reached Victor's entry here, that the audience probably getting the idea that having a data story told via like a linear path is very effective and allows you to both provide an actionable recommendation and a visualization that backs that recommendation. And I think Victor pulled it off as well as anyone else we've seen thus far.
Yeah, this is one of those entries that the more I read, the more I like, but also the more I wish, similar to Ryan, they made kind of small tweaks. This is one of those where I think for those maps at the top, Tran did something that we didn't see many other people do, which is literally specify where a new restaurant should be relative to the restaurant and the consumer density, and kind of finding the gaps there. I think as far as the demographics, which is that middle section there, these are the insights that I think most people picked up on, but I think the way they visualized it here is really effective. And then the rest, so the first times I looked at it, I kind of wished that they'd address the supply and demand gap to kind of pick a cuisine, and I thought that they hadn't. But then after reading it again, so you'll see that we have the top 10 preferred cuisines in the word cloud, and then we have a list of the number of restaurants per cuisine at the bottom. That's narrowed down to the top 10 restaurants by preferred cuisine that they had at the top. And then they're seeing how many restaurants there actually are. So they are addressing like the supply versus demand, and then saying, based on the top 10 preferred, we should choose either coffee shop, family, or Chinese, which are the ones that have the least number of existing restaurants right now. I think they could have done a more effective way of visualizing this, because it did take me a few reads to kind of pick up on it. But I like that it is there. And then one other thing that they did that I didn't see anywhere else is, okay, let's look at the competition, but since we're only doing coffee shop, family, or Chinese, maybe just look at the best restaurants that maybe offer no alcohol service, because maybe that's the kind of style you'd want for these types of restaurants. Overall, I think really solid entry. I maybe would have done the layout a bit different and chosen some charts differently. But overall, the analysis, I think, is really spot on.
All right, great stuff, Enrique. We'll be moving on to the next entrant, someone who's joined us quite often in the challenges, Marjeline. One thing I have to thank her for is that the recommendation is right at the top. Like, it's right there. It's the first thing you see when you're looking at this dashboard. And then the rest of the presentation is very clean, and it's easy to see why she made the recommendation she did. So again, the visualizations are clean. The recommendation is out in the open. And yeah, I really like this entry for the simplicity of it all.
Yeah, this one feels similar in a lot of ways to Ryan's. Kind of basic chart types, clean, simple. I think the biggest difference that Enrique had kind of called out is whether you lead with the recommendation or close with the recommendation. And I think in this case, leading with the recommendation is smart because it gives you that context or that lens that you can think through as you kind of progress through the rest of the dashboard. So, as you look through that decomposition tree, those bar charts, you already know what the recommendation is, so you're kind of primed to understand those charts in that context. I think she did a good job just really honing in on just a few key visuals and key metrics. And I love the actual specific recommended location there in the bottom right. That was kind of taking it a bit further than most people did, which was great to see.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to our next entrant, Marcelo. So I don't think anyone else used an intricate metric like Marcelo did here with the Net Promoter Score. Seeing this in a submission is impressive. I thought the traffic light color approach in conjunction with the NPS, the Net Promoter Score, was solid. It was fantastic, something interesting to see. I would have liked to get more details on how the Net Promoter Score was calculated, though. I felt that what was a missing piece that didn't allow me to enjoy the entry as much as I could have if I had known. You know, and this is maybe more from like an entry standpoint. Unfortunately, we received the entry, we got the snippet of the image and then a link to a Power BI dash, and the link was broken. It didn't work. And I wasn't able to find this on LinkedIn either to see the other page or to see what the Net Promoter Score consisted of, right? He's got the question mark at the top. What is NPS? And that would have explained more. I think if I had been able to see that, I would have enjoyed this entry much more. Okay, moving on to Gerard Duggan. All right, so this is the last entry here. Like the others that made it to the finalists, Gerard is asking pointed questions, digging into the data and coming away with insights. A process repeated 3 times, and each time we get a better understanding of the consumer and how we ought to invest to maximize our returns. I think the thing I took away the most from this entry is how having a thoughtful, structured approach, sticking to it, and executing can shape an analysis to provide actionable insights or recommendations. It's an excellent recipe that for those who are new to our challenges should definitely take notice and emulate.
Yeah, this one, I put this one in my top 3. I think like each of the sections is really easy to follow and gives you a key insight. So I thought just in the ability to process this really quickly and tell a good story, I thought they did a fantastic job here.
Okay, so that concludes the review of the 10 finalists. All right, so after much deliberation, we've made it to the final 4 entries. And in order to spice things up, what we've done is created a bracket. And in the first bracket, we'll have Cornelius versus Kate. And so we've set up as a voting system where if you'll see a clap emoji come up by our names, that'll be a vote for Cornelius. And if you see a thumbs up, that'll be for Kate. Is the Maven team ready?
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, close
That's
one.
close.
Very close.
Very
3
close.
to 2,
Very
Kate.
close.
That was tough. I was on the fence. I could have easily gone either way on that one.
Yeah.
Same.
Wow. Okay.
All right, so Kate wins this round. All right, so now time for our second bracket. And we'll be using a clap for Yoshi and a thumbs up for Marjolaine. Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Wow, that's close.
Oh, man.
3 to 2 again.
Awesome.
All right. So Yoshi takes it. Okay, so we've made it to the final voting round, and we'll have Yoshi versus Kate. And the methodology for this one is a clap emoji for Yoshi and a thumbs up for Kate. And so everybody has a review of the entries one last time. Here's Kate's entry, and here's Yoshi's entry. Is everybody ready to submit their vote?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right, excellent. In 3, 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Whoa.
Kate
I did
takes
not
it.
expect that.
Me
Kate
neither.
takes it.
Wow. I
Congratulations
thought we
to
were going to be
Kate.
head to head. Congratulations,
Thank you.
Kate.
Yeah, let's give her a round of applause, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Nice work.
Yeah, fantastic, everyone. So thank you for joining us for this challenge. We'll be announcing the next challenge very soon. So I hope everybody stays tuned into the Maven page, and we'll see you soon.